Hi, this is an introduction to the Three Chairs Storytelling Workshop. This is something that I gleaned from um, the Big Life Workshop, the Big Life Church Workshop, led by Lee Wood. And he had a mentor, and um, there's that Zume movement that's connected with Big Life. Anyhow, this is a storytelling workshop. It's a simplistic thing. I saw it done with some people. It's a really interesting tool, and I'm often in difficult situations where I don't have hours on my own. I don't have much infrastructure, and I don't even have much. Um, yeah, so I'm making do with what I have. Right here, there are three chairs. One, two, three. That's the that's the three chairs workshop. The middle chair is the transition. Okay, you're sitting in this middle chair and you're saying, "Hi, I have gone through a major life transition, and I want you to know about the transition, and I want you to know the details about the transition and how to make the transition and how to make the transition whole and true and successful." Okay? So this is the transition point. Then this position right here, this is before my transition. Here is my operating behaviors. For me, I was in a state of depression and suicide. Then I went through a major transition, and I want to talk to you about that transition. But first, I want to tell you what happened to me. Now, I am I am so eager to be alive that my depression is more that I cannot live long enough and that I have to sleep and that I have layers of temporal responsibilities because I want to go forward and talk with people about this transition that is so incredible. And I want to be alive for 3 more lifetimes. Over here, I did not want to be alive. Life was a discomfort. I went through this transition. Now, I mean, from the core of me, from my guts, it's totally different. So then, that's in the emotional. Okay, we can do the business. I went through this big transition, amazing transition. Here was my former business life. My business life was this. I want to work with people that are interesting and fun to work with. I want to do business that is inspiring the world and changing the world and doing all kinds of other things. And I want to travel and have experiences and get people together um, on the stuff that I'm interested in, which is old cars and transportation history and the history of music and art and all kinds of other stuff. And then I went through this transition. And now, oh my gosh, now my business life is how can I create simple businesses, labor with the hands? How can I create labor with the hands for peoples who have gone through the transition so that they can have a simplistic life and share the transition with other people as efficiently as they possibly can? Before, I had a set of interests and I was chasing those interests. After the transition and the people of the transition have become the highest and most valuable atmosphere. And now I am trying to figure out how I can best both supply them and teach them how to supply themselves in creative ways so they can stay together as family and exist and flow because they have this interesting purpose of the transition. That's the business. Okay. I went through this big transition. Um, how about okay, one is marriage and one is sex and sex pleasure. So I'll do the marriage one. Okay, over here. Da, 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 da. Okay, before the transition, the concept of marriage was really problematic, really problematic. Something that I didn't feel at all interested in embracing or being excited about. My experience with observing marriages was had so much negativity in it that I would make jokes about how hopelessly impossible it is, and it was not a priority to me. It was a thing that I thought about maybe having once in my life, you know. So before the transition, the concept of marriage was just really, really low, very, very low on my personal priorities. Then the transition, and then after the transition, my picture of marriage is that the two genders, keeping the two genders together in a loving, amazing relationship is one of the most difficult things to do efficiently and effectively. That now, my whole life, I want to gather people together and help to support marriages and help people who are not in marriages prevent themselves from going insane because they don't have a marriage. Now, I lift up the concept of marriage as something that is like this incredible, almost attainable artwork that is literally like that has layers of beauty and wonder in it because of the complements of the genders and all of the experience of being in covenant and being an example of a covenant to other peoples. So the transition really made a major shift in my whole picture of marriage. Then, well, I'll just go from there. Then we can talk about sex pleasure and the details about that in the before the transition, and then the details about sex pleasure afterwards, which is a thing of major importance because in the spiritual environments of my life, nobody talked about sex pleasure. Then there's travel, what I used to do, the purposes for my travel before my transition, and then the purposes for travel after my transition. So, just beginning to let people see how much of a change there is because of this transition, and then describing all the parameters of the transition, many of which are left out. People will give you 4 or 5 parameters of the transition, but they'll leave other ones out. Or they'll give you this one and that one and this one, but they'll leave these things out. There is a package. There is a set of principles in this transition, and they must be discerned and gathered and used. And so this is the introduction to the 3 chairs without using chairs, using towels.